tell us about like, okay, how did it take off? When did the press recognize it? And then how did you go from king of the internet to customer support for the entire internet?
It's the same thing. It's the same
They
thing.
were the same thing.
Also the main blogger, and
Yep.
maybe the first blogger, depending on how you score it. I was also I was the front page for a while. So we started basically a group of us at NCSA basically kind of went rogue in 1991 and started kind of working on this idea on nights and weekends. And in particular, my partner at the time, Eric Bina, and myself, we were the first two to kind of work on this. And just a full kind of acknowledgement here. Eric and I co-wrote the first version of Mosaic, which was for Unix workstations, and then we had other colleagues who are very very famous in the history, who developed the Windows version and developed the Mac version, and so we did develop for all three of those platforms. But the first version was the Unix version. Eric and I built it. I always credit it as I did the front end, and then Eric did all the hard work.
Yeah. He was a great programmer, I guess. Yeah.
He was fantastic, absolutely outstanding programmer. Is an outstanding programmer, and so I did the UI, and Eric did the rendering engine. And so Eric built, and the rendering engine is the core of it. Like the rendering engine is the thing that actually renders the page and has all the user interface elements and makes the links work and displays the images and all this stuff. And that was definitely the harder half of it from a programming standpoint. So I give Eric like at least half the credit, if not more, for that. And then my role was the front end. So it's kind of everything around the rendering engine. And so it was the rest of the UI, and then it was I did the networking protocols, and all the user preferences and all the cache, sort of caching and all the things to kind of make the rendering engine work. So it was the two of us, and it was really like the core work was sort of a crash renegade project, kind of off books. And for me, it was like off books in two ways. It was not what I was supposed to be doing at work, but it was also I was doing this instead of going to class. So this is when I almost got kicked out of college also. So we sort of a crash course over the course of, I guess, the fourth quarter of 92. And then we kind of worked really hard over the holiday break of 92 to kind of get it working. And then I forget the exact sequence, but we put out the first kind of acceptable version, which I think was the 0.9 version, like around Christmas or a little bit after 92. And then I think got to quote 1.0 in kind of the spring of 93. And basically it went vertical basically out of the gate with the 0.9 version. So it was basically so it's sort of a year of preparatory work in 92, and then it was sort of 93 was the vertical takeoff. And 93 was a very important year for me because it was my senior year in college also. And I was off a semester. I was off cycle by a semester for reasons. And then so January to December 93 that was my senior year in college. And so this was like my chance to like really do that. And then because I just assumed I was going to graduate and leave and get a job at the end of the year, so I had about a 12-month run there where the thing really took off. And then it was the Tiger. Oh, and then we had other colleagues who did the what was the not the first web server, but the first kind of widely used, I would say, robust, scalable web server. And again, that also again gave us a lot of ability to move quickly because we actually controlled for that period. We controlled both the client and the server.
Yeah.
And so we can move very fast. So the two of them came out, and then people started to figure this out, and it started to get widely used among existing internet users, and then it was an immediate reason for people to get online at home, and it was really the first reason for a lot of people to try to get online at home, and so it also I think helped catalyze the boom in what were called at the time consumer ISPs, and for people to upgrade their PCs to be graphical and then have network, have the network stack. And so the 93 was like this upward, the straight kind of upward hurricane. But again, it was in this context of we're working for a research institute funded by the federal government. And so, we have no money, we have no revenue, we have no business model,
We got a product out there that's taken off.
It's taken off like crazy, and then we put it out as open source, but under what is called a hybrid license. We put it under a hybrid license that says it's all free for academic and individual use and nonprofit use. But if you want to use it for commercial applications, you have to come talk to us.
Oh, right.
And then I had the mailbox for the incoming commercial queries. And I remember when it hit like 400 of basic companies, like general counsels and procurement officers at big companies saying, we want to deploy this throughout our company. Who do we pay? Wow. And we had no way to take the money. We didn't even have like a price sheet. We didn't have any of this. And then very critically, we didn't have any support, right? So we didn't have any customer support. resources. And so we had the support email address, and I also had that email box.
Yeah.
And so in my spare time between coding sessions, I would literally just like answer questions.
Yeah.
But it was literally, it was supposed to be tech support for Mosaic, but it turned into tech support for the entire internet.
Of course.
So I helped a lot of people.
Tell the difference between that was the internet for everybody, in a lot of ways still is.
Yep, exactly. And so it really started to take, it then sort of became a formal project. It kind of got embraced and became a real project and got more resources. And then, but we were kind of just dying from the overhead, and, we needed more servers and we needed more people and the whole thing. And so I remember we wrote a proposal for a grant. We wanted an incremental grant from the National Science Foundation, and it was to staff a customer support desk, so that we could hire 4 people.
Customer support.
Yeah. So this is actually my first trip to Washington D.C. As we issued this grant. We sent it to and the National Science Foundation people, to their credit, they were fascinated by this whole thing and they were glad that it was working. But we sent in this grant. It was the only place we had any sense of where to get money, and we sent in this grant, and literally it came back denied. The National Science Foundation is not in the business of funding customer support. One of the sort of fun twists here is, okay, you idiot, this giant commercial opportunity is staring you in the face. Like you literally have inbound sales leads coming out of your ears. Why don't you go raise venture capital and start a company?
Yeah.
And of course the answer was because I had no idea that there was such a thing as venture capital.
Yeah, what venture capital?
I literally.
Yeah, you know what a tractor was.
Yes, exactly. I had no conception whatsoever I had no clue at the time that it was actually a tractable thing that you could do that. And that was something that really, rich, famous, fancy people did. Or, I don't know, some people got lucky, or people in Silicon Valley or something, but people in Illinois certainly were not doing that. And so, and there was no venture capital in Champaign-Urbana at that point. And then there was exactly one software startup at that point, called Spyglass, which is a name that will come up later in the story.
Yeah.
But it was not doing well. And so it was more of a cautionary tale. And so we basically just, we had the tiger by the tail, and then we just kind of held on for dear life kind of through that year.